October the 25th, 2025. Guys, you're looking at current images of Hurricane Melissa. Rapidly developed, going from 65 to over 90 miles per hour, sustained winds. 96 is where you get into a Cat 2, and it's probably there now after we get the latest reports. This is Jamaica. It's probably kind of hard to see right there. And then this is eastern Cuba. Then you start getting into your southern Bahamas here. Anyway, look at this. It's remained very intense, moved up, and then as we had talked about in the last few videos, as soon as it made the left turn, we were going to see rapid development. Now, one of the reasons I'm coming here is that we may not get an impact as far as a direct impact into the U.S., but coming across Jamaica and up through Cuba and into the Bahamas, guys, we're talking about up to 40 inches of rain. Now, that's a problem. You got mountainous areas in Jamaica. You've got them in Cuba. And when you're dealing with 40 inches, that's piled up over 2 or 3 days. Then the landslides are going to become very, very much a problem. But if you look here in the last few frames, everything is solidifying back, and we're about to see this thing explode into a Cat 2 or 3 probably in the next few hours. Now let's just back up just a minute and look at the natural color images from the satellite. Look at this thing. Again, it was moving so slow, it was like what I said. I think we got a battle between man and nature going on here. And look at this outline right there. Check that out. It's crazy. Anyway, I think that even if you use the weather manipulation or modification projects like HAARP or whatever, you're still dealing with limited power over an expanded length of time. Maybe a day or two, you can run everything full speed. You're going to start having overheating, power problems, and then nature takes over and things try to go back into a natural, as far as hurricanes, tornadoes, weather, go back into a natural progression. Now, I'm not sure if I was correct a few nights ago, because I definitely talked about was the government trying to do a good thing without looking at the overall effect. In other words, FEMA had really became like the worst program ever developed by the U.S., and a lot of money was being wasted there. And so we don't, and between the response last year of a couple of different storms, the money was gone. And we know that the U.S. is struggling now. The tariffs and things that people are really fussing about are there because the nation is about to go broke, and everything needs to be balanced back out. So if they're trying to stop the storm, like I said, because they can't afford another FEMA event, they're just prolonging and delaying the inevitable. Nature always wins. The way God set up this universe, the solar system, and down to the weather on this planet that's controlled by our sun, is everything is for an exact reason. When man messes with that, in their stupidity, they don't understand what all of the side effects are. Now, this update just came out, guys, less than an hour ago. Notice this Cat 5 has been added in here. They were talking about it could possibly be that. Now they are definitely looking at it. And what's happening again is you've got man blocking a storm here that's doing everything it can to come into these hotter waters here and in the Gulf of America that need to be cooled by God's natural process, our Father in heaven, the way he designed it. They don't care about that. They want to save on FEMA money. But the longer you delay it, all of these things pile up. Now, excuse me, guys, Jamaica, you're going to get a Cat 5 dead on because of the weather manipulation. This pattern, guys, is not natural. I've been watching this since the hurricanes, even with the old tracking maps, since 1964. There's probably only a handful of you guys that were born then, but that was Hurricane Betsy. We were down in the New Orleans area and south into Buras, Louisiana. and the levee broke on the Mississippi River, which is 30 or 40 feet higher than the highways there. So a lot of damage was done. And I remember before we had to evacuate Fort Betsy and coming out of New Orleans, there were streetcars everywhere. It looked like San Francisco in downtown New Orleans. And after that, everything was destroyed, and they have a couple of token streetcars now that no longer run the way the old ones did, more or less buses. But things changed very quickly. I just brought that up for reference. But notice something here, 90 miles per hour. Look at the movement, west at 3 miles per hour. This thing is trying to batter against HAARP head on, like running back with the block, with your guard blocking, and you got linebackers back there, and they're hitting it head on, guys. But it's a battle between nature and what man can do. I say HAARP, guys, but that's kind of old school. They still have it, but there's so many other technologies involved now, possibly on these islands, and of course in space with satellite technology. And when they heat up a certain area of the upper atmosphere, they create high pressure, and that's how they steer the storms. Now, this was updated at 5:30, guys, about 25 minutes or so ago. And what we're looking at is everything has definitely moved back to the right or back to the east slightly, but the Canadian model, which we're looking at, still has the center coming through this section of Cuba, which would put the worst part of the northeast quadrant of the storm over Guantanamo Bay. The other models are bringing it back to the eastern side of Cuba, which would be better for Cuba, but it would, if it gets offshore too much right in this area, and if it comes anywhere near these lines, guys, you're going to have a lot of that storm still in the water. So as we look at the forecast from this going to a Cat 5 to a Category 1 or 2, as it gets into the Bahamas, that would not be the case if it slips through the opening here. You would have a Cat 5 coming into the southern Bahamas. Check that out. Now let's look at the Navy model for just a moment. It has changed. From last night, it was kind of coming up through the central part of Jamaica, which is this small island. But now it's changed, and it's going to move south of the island of Jamaica, then make a right turn and come up over Guantanamo Bay. And because of that, it will not slow down much. So Guantanamo Bay, you could have a Cat 5 on you before you know it. You see that? That's not enough to slow down the Cat 5 hurricane just skirting that western tip of Jamaica, then moving right out through there. And when you're dealing with that, again, they're looking at over 3 days of 40 inches of rain across this path. Now let's switch to the GFS model. That's a global forecast system. And it's coming in pretty close to the same path, except, check this out, it's turning north over the eastern side of Jamaica. And just like I said in the last video about this, Jamaica, you really don't have a good bet in this deal at all. Regardless of where it comes ashore, you're going to be affected. So, and we talked about this. If you're on the western tip, you may want to move to the eastern tip, because where the northeast quadrant comes ashore, that's the most powerful winds. A Cat 5, guys, destroyed Gulfport, much of Biloxi, Mississippi, a couple of times. Look at Florida. Just think about what I'm saying. Anyway, Cuba, you're going to be changed. Guantanamo Bay. Again, if you've got friends or family that are serving in this area, or you got friends anywhere in Cuba, then contact them. I don't know what kind of information they're getting. I'm sure that Guantanamo Bay has the latest from the U.S. Navy models and other information too. But it would be a good time just if you had, I've had our son serve overseas in the Middle East twice in the Air Force. And it's good to be able to get a little contact here and there. You know what I mean. Anyway, contact them if you can. I'm sure they're aware of it, but just let them know you're aware of the situation they're in. Sometimes that's an uplifting thing for their spirit. But guys, we're watching this. You watch it. We're kind of looking at both extremes of it. But everything I can see on the Weather Channel, AccuWeather, is a trail of 40 inches of rain following the storm over a 2 to 3 day period. And so that never gives you a time to dry up. It never gives you a time to recover from a landslide or a flood or a mudslide. You just don't have that much time, so be prepared. This is going to be the storm we hoped that much of the U.S. would avoid, and possibly it will. But we got so many friends in this area of this entire map that are going to be affected. And we're watching it, guys. You watch it. Get in touch with your friends and family. It's a heads up. Be safe.